The mandate, it is a machine. I know where the gears grind against one another.
They got a weapon up there. You hear me? We need a pilot.
He is a brat, cocky, pops off at the mouth, and just waiting to hear the words, "Oh, you're just like your father."
I'm not a soldier. I'm a garbage man.
We all hear the gunshots at the same time.
Now let's go take these people down.
Like this. And I rush towards and try and tackle.
Like this.
This is not just poisoning users of the space between. This is exploiting their power.
Ooh.
Her eyes fall shut. This might be the end.
And as the two of you stare at each other, that presence starts thrumming.
We're gonna need more guns for this.
You didn't think we would end this dance without a duet, did you, my friend?
Oh, wow.
Chike, you know this asshole?
We were friends. And now you're working for the mandate?
And then she opens her eyes and says, "We've got it."
I'm a guy who fixes the pipes.
You're the hero that saved the galaxy.
Hey, party people. Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast. Or, well, something a little bit like it. My name is Jess Levine, creator of the game Going Rogue, which you may know from being featured on Party of One not once, but 3 times. Going Rogue is a sister game of Galactic by Riley Rethel, another Party of One featured GM-less TTRPG. Party of One was the first place to do an AP of either game, and it feels like a part of their DNA. So I'm so excited today to bring you a feed drop of the official Galactic actual play for the combined Galactic and Going Rogue crowdfunder, available only on Party of One. This AP is facilitated by the show's very own Jeff Stormer, guest edited by Seda, who also edited the Star-Crossed X I Have the High Ground Party of One that I did with Alex Roberts, and starring a 5-person cast of incredible performers who will introduce themselves shortly. The Galactic and Going Rogue Kickstarter can be found at bit.ly/galacticgoingrogue, or the Kickstarter link in the show notes, and runs from Tuesday, May 20th through to the end of June. With that, let's get into the first episode, in which our party will create their characters in the world they inhabit. Take it past Jeff.
Thanks, future Jess. So today we're sitting down to play Galactic, a game of belonging outside belonging about rebellion and relationships in space. I will be your facilitator today. My name is Jeff Stormer. I'm a podcaster, game designer. My pronouns are he and his. And you probably know me from the podcast Party of One, the feed on which you're hearing these episodes, which is an actual play podcast about getting to know interesting people through the shared language of play. I'm going to throw it over to my group, my galactic band of rebels and outlaws, and we'll see where we go. I'm going to throw it over to Dusty. Give us an introduction.
Hi, I'm Dusty. I use they, he pronouns. I'm an AP performer, producer, and game designer. I write silly games about genres, and I write APs that are very gay.
We love this a great deal. Jay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nala, or Jay. My pronouns are they, them. I am a freelance art director, illustrator, voice actor, sensitivity consultant, and actual play performer, best known for 8-1 by Night, an award-winning VTM AP featuring the first all-Asian cast to stream Vampire the Masquerade.
And Iffy.
Hey, how's it going? Nwadiwe, he, him, the host of Actually, and other nerdy stuff online.
And Catrina.
Hello, I'm Catrina, that's known as Catrina online. My pronouns are she and they, and I've been doing tabletop things for like 12 years, but I am perhaps best known for my work at Hunters Entertainment as the marketing director.
Fantastic. I am so excited to be sitting down with all of y'all today. I think this is an incredible group, and we're going to tell an incredible story. So we have already done some work of picking our playbooks and sort of deciding on the characters that we are going to be playing. We'll go through that list in order. So first off, I'm going to throw it over to Iffy. Introduce us to the Ace.
Yes, I'll be playing the Ace. The Ace is a skilled pilot. Their power comes from their agility, conviction, and nerve.
Catrina, introduce us to the Nova.
The Nova is attuned to the space between. Their power comes from their emotion, focus, and intuition.
I will be playing the Defector. The Defector used to work for the Mandate, but got out. Their power comes from their compassion, determination, and will to change. Jay, introduce us to the Scoundrel.
The Scoundrel is a member of the underbelly of the galaxy. Their power comes from their connections, recklessness, and criminal history.
And finally, Dusty, introduce us to the Mechanic.
Yeah, the Mechanic is a fixer. Their power comes from their mechanical knowledge, drive, and insight.
So this being a belonging outside belonging game, this being a GM-less experience, we also have 4 kind of world details that we are going to use to kind of like flesh out what is happening around us. We're all going to have characters. We're also going to embody these pieces of the setting to get us in trouble, to flesh out the places and stories that we're exploring. And so we've got a few of these big pillars that we're going to be interacting with. And I will say, Dusty, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the space between?
Yeah, the space between is the connections between people are what surround us and give us strength. The galaxy is never silent. It is alive and humming with energy that you can feel if you pay attention. When channeled correctly, the space between can turn dominions into empires and revolts into revolutions. But be careful, for concentrated power can be dangerous for anyone who dares come near.
Catrina, can you tell us about the mandate?
Sometimes it feels like there's no escape from its gravity. The Mandate is an intergalactic superpower that uses its might to control the galaxy with fear, propaganda, and alienation. The only way the Mandate can perpetuate itself is with constant aggression, advancement of weaponry, and violence. And we know that it will eventually collapse under its own weight. However, until then, it continues to cause death and destruction throughout the galaxy.
Nala, can you tell us about the liberation?
Of course. There are many in the galaxy who are not willing to go down without a fight. The Liberation are your comrades in arms, the people of the galaxy who are actively resisting and fighting back against the Mandate. No revolution is perfect. It is made of people who are prone to disagreement and distrust. But that, many say, is what separates them from the Mandate, working together towards a better future for the galaxy.
And Iffy, can you tell us about the scum and villainy?
I sure can. Criminals.
I've played this game a lot, and genuinely, I still get such a laugh at that description that it pops me every single time.
The fact it's last and follows the first 3 longer descriptions is just chef's kiss.
It's really, really good, is the thing.
Yeah.
Great. So now that we've gotten to know our playbooks, we've gotten to know the world pillars, we're going to make some choices about our characters, namely their look, their style, a few questions about that character. And as we do that, we're going to kind of decide like the kind of story we want to play, the kind of characters we want to embody. And we'll kind of talk this through as a group to kind of help shape the group of characters that we are embodying. So as we go through it, if you've got any questions or any call-outs that you want to make or choices that you're particularly excited about or things you kind of want to throw to the group to discuss, this is the time to kind of throw those out and start to hash out those decisions. I'm looking at my choices for what was the last straw, what made me join the Liberation, and they're all very juicy, and I'm trying to decide if I want it to be more of a moral thing that pushed me, or if I want it to be more grounded in a personal relationship. I think as I'm saying it out loud, it feels more compelling if it is like this was a conscious individual decision, but I'm open to kind of throwing this to the group if it feels maybe juicier for it to tie to a relationship with one of you as your characters are taking shape, or go in other direction entirely.
The Mandate questions are always so spicy.
They are.
Especially for the defective.
They really are. They really, really are.
I have a question for everybody. Aside from the playbooks that we are going to be embodying, does anyone have any specific character concepts beyond the playbook name itself? Because I have a couple of ideas, but I want to hear what other people are thinking so that I don't do something that is too similar to what someone else is doing.
Totally. I will say there is like the bare bones of a character concept or like a character pitch, because a thing that Star Wars does that I do love is steal things. I like that Star Wars is like a pastiche of pastiches and is like a collection of stuff. And one of the reasons I really like The Defector, I think, is because I really am forever attached to my beloved cartoon, The Venture Brothers, and like that picture of like hench people as low-level minions that just are kind of people who have a job, and the idea of that person as a person that was like, hey, actually this sucks, is very compelling to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So like that's kind of where I think my initial head is bouncing around this idea, but like I'm still kind of taking shape of what that might look like.
Some of the ideas I had, one of them, I could play a big buff queer disaster, just very like himbo energy. Just we'll do almost anything for money. I think that's where the scoundrel part comes in. My other concept was more of a refined, organized crime boss or underling, something like that. someone who I'm pulling from the connections, especially that is named in my playbook. So somebody who has a finger on the pulse of the underworld. And my third idea was playing a robot, because I think I do a pretty good robot voice.
I do have an immediate reaction to playing a robot that did spark a joy in me that I need to call out.
And the other thing that I love about the robot idea is that it could be either of the first two options.
Yeah, you could be a bit you could just be a big buff robot. Like, that's entirely on the table.
You could be a hot robot.
I think you saying that has sort of pushed me towards a little bit of a visual aesthetic for my character, which is very kind of like working class. Like, I think I've been seeing a lot of Sopranos memes lately, so like a Tony Soprano aesthetic of like kind of a schlubby guy is like very present in my head. So like that's kind of where my brain is at. Is like that sort of energy that like, so I don't know how you want to bounce off of that or if you want to run in a direction, but like that's kind of where my head is at. I'm almost picturing like New Jersey contractor is my energy.
But with a stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah.
For the mechanic, I've been thinking about playing someone that is much more about like, not necessarily a solo person, but like a little bit of the trope that I understand machines more than like people, but also just like engrossed into the wonders of space and travel and all that. And like they're a mechanic because they've been traveling so long that the ship they had has been broken down multiple times. So like a mechanic, a wanderer. I could already see a connection between like the gossipy robot and this mechanic that's like I won't talk to other people, but I'll talk to you. What G's-man do you have? And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think for the Nova, if you know me, you know I love space witches in Star Wars. I'm a very big Asajj Ventress fan, but I was also a huge fan of Osha and May's people from the Acolyte. Like I was like, oh my god, a coven in space. And unfortunately, both of those factions, the Night Sisters and Osha and May's family, I think were done a great injustice involving like a big femicide on each side of them. And so I want to play a Nova who, it exists in a world where the Jedi aren't like, oh, well, that's the wrong way to use the Force. Instead, the Nova have different factions, different cultures, different ways of viewing the space between. And so my Wanderer, my Nova, is one of those people who is a little bit more esoteric, who, practices the Force in a very like witchy sort of way, and kind of has that like that angular, like mysterious, like quality to them.
I love that. Iffy, anything you're sitting on?
Yeah. No, I think, I just feel like just a cross between like Poe Dameron and getting a little bit of my good boy Amaro Ray from the Gundam series. I really like, just these, when you're talking about like these fights and conflicts where it's the struggle and there's a resistance, there's a lot of people who are, made to be soldiers that, have never been soldiers. And then you also have a group of people within that who think that they're ready and learn like the hard way that that's not true. And so as the ace, I would just love just kind of like this kind of, young man who like has the cockiness of being able to fix up and race, little speeders here and there, and thinks that it's easily going to translate into fighting in actual dog fights in space, and learning the hard way that it is not going to be that great. It's not going to be that romantic, and that war is very gritty. It is very dark, and it comes with a lot of like pain and real trauma. So I think someone who's going to be like, he has a cocky smirk, and he has, those like sweet eyes, just kind of the eyes of youth, but like the face of someone who thinks they know it all, and they really want to be out there. They want to leave. I imagine that he is part of a family that's been a part of this fight, and so it's because of that you have that familial entitlement and that cockiness where you're like, well, my dad was great at this, so obviously I'm going to be great at this
for
too.
sure, for sure.
And I think, parents in that situation would be more overbearing because it's like, actually, I don't want you to do this. I actually like you to be some kind of nerf herder or something where you're out of danger. And him running into danger and finding out the hard way that it wasn't as, heroic and romantic as he imagined it was through his dad's stories.
Good shit.
I really
good
like
shit.
that. I really like that. That's good shit. I've started to really look at my character or my playbook a little bit and start to fill in some of these choices. I do think hearing all of these ideas, all of which have me so excited, really kind of calcified, I think, who I want my defector to be, and also a little bit of the space that I am excited to explore with this character of I said as kind of jokingly or flippantly a Sopranos thing, but the more I sat with the idea of a blue collar, not a blue collar worker, but a very working class, the more I kind of sit with the idea that in fighting fascism, there are a lot of ways to resist, and there are also a lot of ways to comply, and the idea of someone working in shipping or logistics or construction, it is a thing that I actually kind of do want to change about Star Wars, is that everybody is a trained gunfighter and secret spy and also secret computer hacker and engineer. There's nobody that's a guy with a van. And my brain immediately leaps to a guy with a van. My brain immediately leaps to a guy whose primary job was main, and it's a little bit of the Clerks joke about the general contractors who worked on the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the thing of what was the last straw, and I do stumbled upon a secret plans for an atrocity as somebody whose life was very defined by labor and by the sort of mundanity of labor, and then quickly kind of having this moment of realization of, oh, I think that I'm complicit in something horrible. I think I need to find a way to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of pulls me towards that choice on my playbook, and that also pulls me towards one of my kind of two inherent qualities. I have to choose something that I am and something that I want to be, and I think I really at peace with my past as somebody that comes from a labor background, but also a little bit of an adjacent enough to an organized crime background that speaks to growing up in the suburbs of Philadelphia and in South Jersey. It's that sense of yeah, I know some guys that would break your legs if they needed some legs broken, and so at peace with my past as a guy with that history is very compelling. Has anybody else landed on any of the choices on their sheet that they feel very sort of compelled by?
Definitely for me, I think it's been real fun kind of picking the skills because I like that the range of the skills. And I think for Chike, it's fixing ships he's good at, but also good at pushing people's butting. He's he is a brat. He's a little dork who is cocky, pops off at the mouth, and he has learned the things that he can say that will drive people just wild.
I really like that. That's such a good combination is the thing.
I've been going through and kind of just going down for a mechanic, and kind of getting closer to what I was thinking. I chose for look, earnest eyes and careful hands. But one of the fun things for the mechanic, you have two desired currencies, which is I want gossip, but also no questions asked. Which is, I think, just kind of pulling through. It's yeah, I want to know about stuff, but do we really have to talk that much?
That's really wonderful.
I think the thing I'm trying to go for with the Nova is, I noticed this on our Lines and Veils sheet. The cringe orphan backstory is something we're trying to avoid, and unfortunately, a lot of Jedi in Star Wars have cringe orphan backstories,
yes,
given the fact that that all the Jedi were killed. So I want to kind of flip that on its head and instead say, like, the faction of Nova that Eerie comes from are a faction of Nova that are like, okay, well, I don't know, kind of like when you turn 10 in Pokemon, it's like, well, go out into the world now, go meet people, go have, like, build on the culture that you come from by, learning about other people and making friends. And, like, maybe Eerie is, like, a little, still kind of struggling with being a social or sociable person, but that is like the whole point of like why they're traveling the galaxy is like you have to seek out, to borrow a language from another space franchise, Strange New Worlds, and new people, and learn about them so that you can be a more whole person and better connected with the space between.
That's great. That really rips.
Going off what you said earlier about the Nova, and just the space between in general, I really, really like the idea about how different cultures, different communities channel the space between in different ways. I think I'm here as someone who is a very, very casual Star Wars enjoyer. And so my impression of it has always been like fairly one-sided. I feel like there was a lot of opportunity in Star Wars for them to do something interesting with the Force, and it kind of just felt bad. And also, I'm the one who put cringe orphan backstories on there as an adopted person. I hate that trope.
Yes.
Like, with my entire being, I desperately need the TTRPG space and authors and writers and creators expanded from that to just stop. I need people to stop doing that. But I really like this idea of having culture formed around this phenomenon that people can't necessarily explain. And I like the idea that people, depending on where you're from, have different explanations for that, and that there's different truths that people hold. And I think that's really, really cool.
I think that's very broadly a thing that, like, is, I think, it's a thing that I think is very frustrating to me about, like, Star Wars in general, is that it comes up with one of the most, like, iconic ways of describing the plurality of experience that has ever been said when Obi-Wan Kenobi says, like, yeah, that's true from a certain point of view. Like, it is such an iconic way of saying, like, people have experienced this so differently, and then spends the next 50 years being like, and this is the painstaking way that every detail of the galaxy works. There are no questions so the idea that we have these concepts, but like they are, they are different to the point of maybe sometimes being almost incompatible, even as they engage with common concepts, really captivates me and like really excites me.
I also have a more concrete idea for my character after listening to some of y'all talk about your ideas. So if I'm playing a robot or an AI or something who is part of some kind of criminal underbelly, I like the idea that my character deals in secrets, where I'm kind of like an info broker. People can come to me and ask for information on people, but in order to get information, you have to give information. And so my character is known in the underbelly as the person to go to if you want information on things, but also is feared by folks because I have dirt on a lot of people. But also I'm a robot, so it's not like you'd have to like hack me or something to get the information.
The being like a robotic or like droid or AI, like a secret broker, that means like you could also have all of your secrets be a physical thing. And that's just a really fun idea. That's like, oh yeah, here's all these data chips, but like you're not getting them. Like, I have this, but also I'm a scoundrel, so how many arms are you going to have as a droid?
I think that I want to play more of a humanoid droid, because when I think about the bots in Star Wars, I think of I can't even remember the guy's name. BB-8, the little ball, two balls,
Yeah.
a ball, a hamster ball. So there's a hamster ball. There's R2-D2, who's like a can with two legs, and then there's C-3PO, who is man-like, gold,
Manish, yeah,
man-ish, but I like the idea of my character looking a lot more futuristic, I guess. More sleek design. The kind of like shield of a face that has like little projections and like, you know, I have a face that you can talk to.
Oh, like 2004's iRobot?
Maybe? That... I'm going to Google that really quick.
Just generally what our vision of what futuristic robots would have been in the early 2000s.
Like
when
iPods
Max
is what they
still
would look
had,
like?
Yeah. When Max still had like color on their shells and like everything was see-through. I miss those.
I just looked that up. I don't like that. No.
Okay. iRobot out of the picture. Good to know.
Yeah, I recently watched it. It like the VFX hold up really well, but it is still unsettling. I was like, I don't like this.
I remember that's a movie I watched a lot, specifically on an iPod Classic, because that's what I had at the time. As the director intended, I could only assume.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think I've got most of my I got into a groove, and I think I've got most of my decisions made.
Yeah, I
So
think I have mine too.
I think I can start kind of cruising through it. I think I kind of just need to land on a name and pronouns, but my character, his look is questioning eyes and a curt speech. He wears discreet clothing with a many-pocketed vest and goggles. He stumbled upon the secret plans for an atrocity. He is at peace with his past and wants to be devoted to the liberation. I think it is very much the sense of like, I'm here, I want to help. I don't fully know what that means or what I'm doing, but somebody put me to work and point me in a direction, and I think he's trying to like reach for that. And I've got some relationships that I can flesh out in time. I just got to think of a name. Does anybody else have like a firm... Dusty, it sounded like you had a pretty firm grasp on your choices.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, they have earnest eyes and careful hands, which I think is like a fun thing for someone who's a mechanic and like up in there to have like a very like gentle touch. Their desired currencies again, gossip or no questions asked. 3 things they always have are the right tools, something to fidget with, and then memories of loss. And that's going to go into my style of tool belt, hastily tied back hair, and a repurposed uniform. I think I'm pulling this character from a story that I was playing previously as someone who was is in Galactic, who was a Nova. And then I think this is going to be their partner after that story. And so this is the repurposed uniform. I actually think is an old Nova uniform that they have kind of like made. So like got the robes like tied off to like a level where they're not tripping over anything or won't catch on fire.
That's great. I love that.
And then maybe that's who the memories of loss are of. Who could say? But their name is Zar Ita, pronouns they them.
Fantastic. All right. So we've heard from me, we've heard from Dusty. Catrina, do you have your character choices? Your two big, you have your big choices made?
Yeah. So I'll be playing Eerie Orlon. They have an angular face and curious eyes. They wield an Astra blade and wear all black everything and leather belts, because you know how we do. They've spent
so many belts.
So many, always. Amano would be so proud of me. In the space between, before I was part of the space between, there was no before. Eerie was born into this. This is part of their culture. And then the 2 things that Eerie has is an Astra blade and an understanding of their heritage. What they're searching for is a sense of belonging and her destiny.
I love that. I really like that. That's great. Iffy, what do you got? as far as your big choices.
Yes. So as we heard, Chike just kind of just nepo baby pilot. So he longs for adventure. He wants to, break out of the safety. I didn't know I accidentally created Gohan, who just doesn't. He wants to be tough like his dad, even though his mom wants him to go to school. His two other skills, like fixing ships, pushing people's buttons. He, kind of tries to be a know-it-all, even though he knows so little. I think out of everyone in this party, he's going to be kind of just the freshman who is trying to act like he knows everything, and everyone will see right through it. And but to deflect from any of his shortcomings, he'll know how to just kind of razz someone just to get under their skin.
That's great. Oh, that got me. The second you said Gohan, it got me real hard.
I didn't realize it until I was saying it. I was like, oh, this is basically just Gohan.
You got halfway through the sentence and you were like, oh, I see what's happening here.
We love a Gohan.
Mm-hmm. We do love a Gohan. Nala, what do you have and what have you lost as the scoundrel?
I have a favor owed from someone powerful and a high-grade blaster, and I've lost a sense of belonging and the ability to relax.
Oh.
Same.
And I want to build a little more on what I was saying earlier. Scratch the humanoid thing. I actually think, like, if Eva from WALL-E was just larger, I think that's the vibe, because I was thinking about what I have, and I want guns for arms, because I think that's funny.
That's really good. That's real good.
So
yep.
I have guns for arms. And I also selected for my look an open smile and folded arms, because like Eva or Eve, I think her arms are just
they're like
they're in.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go in sort of in that direction. And then the jobs I tend to do, I picked assassination, and then I made up one of my own, which is just info broker, because there wasn't anything in the list to encompass the character concept. And then for my style, I also, nothing on the list, like all of it was clothes. So I was like, well, I'm a robot, and the design I would describe as sleek, I think is the best descriptor word.
I really like that.
A robot
That's
could have clothes. What if it's Eve, but they have a sick leather jacket?
And it says grease lightning on the back.
Yes.
sort of hung on their shoulders, like as though you were coming in and just putting your jacket on a chair, like it just sits there.
Yeah.
But then guns poke out from the sleeves.
Exactly. When the guns come out, the jacket flies off in a very dramatic fashion.
It's a white chrome robot that's wearing a blazer.
Yes.
With a name tag.
So now that we've got a pretty handle on our characters, we'll kind of give a full introduction. But like now that we've got a handle on our characters, let's really get to know the world that we're occupying. Let's make some choices about our pillars. We've got the space between, the mandate, the liberation, our scum and villainy. And what we'll do is choose 2 desires for each to kind of help us get a handle on what these represent in our world. So why don't we start with the space between? There are 2 desires that we'll choose from, the list being solidarity, difficult choices, balance, intense bonds and uncontainable emotions, solitary training, enlightenment, revelation, unity with those that came before. What of these details really embody the space between as we're kind of fleshing it out? Like, what feels like the ways in which it kind of manifests or desires or grasps at within our story? What is most compelling to us as a group?
Ooh. I feel like for this, since I feel like it's going to be a lot of Catrina's, journey, I want to follow your lead with your Pokemon kids.
Yeah, I think solidarity and I'm open to like more suggestions, but I know that for my character specifically, focuses would be like solidarity and unity with those who came before, especially if we're telling a story of the Nova who have an expanded view of what the space between is and understand that and accept that like there are different views of it. I think those are 2 really good options, and we could choose one or the other if we want, alongside something else.
I think those are both great, and I feel like they're very kind of hand in hand as we're describing them. That feels very compelling. I do wonder if maybe there is like a third option that maybe and I kind of maybe will throw this to the group and say like either maybe enlightenment or revelation of kind of tying in of something that almost or because I think almost imagining something that is a little bit at odds with that sense with like of like what kind of what maybe pulls us in a sort of what feels like a grain of sand that rubs coarsely on that sense of solidarity and unity. Like what feels right to us? What feels good to us?
I think going with that, I think revelation would be very good.
Yeah.
Because a revelation kind of like intones that it's something specifically for the person that's trying to reveal or revel and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I love it.
It also implies a certain degree of like surprise, of like discovery, of we are sharing in the commonality of all life, but also we are doing that to find that which hasn't been found yet, and that to me is very compelling. Like there's something very beautiful in that.
This in my mind works really well with like Catrina, your Nova is like saying that like they have the family and everything. Like having solidarity and unity with those came before, like I can immediately think of like a Nova like Ofrenda.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Which that's just like that's so fun. Like Star Wars is too afraid to do anything like that. So
Every time they introduce, I mean, and, look, I love Star Wars. You know, I love Star Wars. But anytime they introduce any divergence from the Force or the way the Jedi view it, like they immediately kill the people who are doing it. So
Yeah.
So it's like no, the Force is so much bigger than that. Like so I'm really excited for us to explore the space between like this.
I really like that. I'm really excited about that. Let's pick some desires for our mandate. These can be untold destruction, unquestioned supremacy, military expansion, an end to the Nova, hierarchy and order, dominion over the space between, or a restoration of an old order. Does any of those options jump out to anyone as compelling as we kind of set up our antagonistic force?
for me, one that jumps out just for the Nova, unity with those who came before. I think having that butting heads with restoration of an old order is really good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think that could be the drive for the second thing that we choose, because the first one could be like what their objective is, and the second could be like the way they pursue it.
Yeah, that feels really good. That feels really good.
Oh yeah.
I'm floating towards either untold destruction or military expansion. Does one of those feel more compelling to the group than the other?
I have a pitch.
Please, hit me.
For the supremacy one, because we've established that the Nova have this understanding that no one is going to interpret the space between in the same way, and that they respect these differences, what if our mandate is like wants to create uniformity, and they want everyone to follow their idea of how to deal with the space between, and they don't. Yeah, so they're like chasing down everybody and trying to make people conform to their beliefs.
That feels really good. That feels really solid.
I love
really
it.
like that.
Yeah.
Let's choose some desires for our liberation. These can be retaliatory violence, long shot missions, hope renewed, military strategy, imagination of a better world, ideological discourse, or working together.
I'd working together, collective action, I think, is always going to be a great tool in a story of resistance and oppression.
And with a lot of what we've mapped out with the Nova, there is also this feeling of an imagination of a better world, of like, it feels like, looking at these three kind of pillars hand in hand a little bit. It's sci-fi. We can have three hands. Looking at these pillars, it really feels like what we're kind of building towards is this idea of like a world or a galaxy refreshed or like renewed, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, if the old order is one of uniformity, of isolation, of violent sort of military disenfranchisement, of individualism in its most toxic of forms. And then, it feels like there has been like a rapid growth or almost a revolution of ideas and connectivity and bridging of cultures and like expansions of the idea of what life could be, that like a liberation unit that is formed around like, we have only just begun that work. We have just started to visualize what this galaxy can be if we all work together. Really, really hits for me. How are y'all feeling with that?
Yeah, I love it.
I'm really into this. All right, which brings us to scum and villainy. Criminals.
Woo!
These desires can be things like uncomfortable bargains, understanding, the jackpot, secrecy, strings to pull, escape from this livelihood, fresh blood, or enough credits to get through the week. What do we want scum and villainy to feel like in our story?
I really like uncomfortable bargains. I think that's fun. And I think that fits sort of the character concept that I have. And this idea of trading knowledge and trading secrets and that sort of thing, I think is really cool.
How do you shake hands with someone with gun for hands?
That's a great question.
One of my favorite like tropes for like scum and villainy and stuff is enough credits to get through the week. Because like it's more often than not you're in there not by choice.
Sure.
Like especially like unless you are like a Jabba where you are have a whole basically planet, because Tatooine is just that planet right there where Jabba is. You're not living lush.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think that really ties in nicely with this idea of like, this is a world that is rapidly changing, and sort of the like, this is a world where people are kind of, I think, reaching out in a lot of respects. Like, this is a galaxy where a lot of people are reaching out their hands and like asking for help, and the idea that there is like there is inevitably there is going to be some degree of like exploitation there of like, yeah, I can help out, I can get you through the week, it's gonna come at a cost, but like that it feels very natural for the space that we're building that I really, really love. So now that we've gotten to know our pillars, I think it'll be good for us to like reintroduce our characters, kind of give like a little bit of a proper introduction, because now we're going to fill out some relationships. These are relationships to non-player characters and side characters we're going to fill out with our world, but ways to kind of like ground us in the people around us. So why don't we go around? I'm just going to go down the list in the book. We'll go down, we'll introduce our characters, and then start to think about like the options that we have for relationships. So starting at the top, we've got our ace. Iffy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, my ace is going to be Chike Ngomi, who, like I said, Nepo baby, trying to make it happen, thinks he knows everything. And I think with that, the way I'll look at kind of like the relationship I'm going to lean on in the book, and kind of having this relationship with my dad where I want to be like him, and because of him I think I would be great. I'm gonna go with learned commander, who I see as a mentor, and it's someone who has worked with my dad and who I am just waiting to hear the words, "Oh, you're just like your father." But in this journey, maybe we'll find out some things about my father I wasn't ready to hear, because he is on a pedestal in my head, but I didn't know the things that he actually did when he was in war. And for now, we'll just say his name is Bruce Parley. Bruce Parley. There, just shoot
Parlay.
Good.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
If I think too hard on it, I'll never come up with a name. So just gotta shoot from the hip.
First idea, best idea. So the relationships that we're building, the characters that we're creating as part of our relationships, are tied to specific pillars. So which of the 4 pillars is...
I think it's the liberation for sure.
Fantastic. All right, moving down the list, let's get to know our Nova and know one of the relationships in their life.
Yeah, so my Nova is a curious Nova who has been booted out into the galaxy to learn more, broaden their perspective on what there is to see out there, and just generally be a helpful presence amid the chaos of the war. Their primary relationship right now is a wise mentor, the matriarch of their Nova faction, who works with unconventional methods because they're witches. So so this matriarch is someone that works with the space between as their pillar, and has advised Eerie and prepared her for the galaxy that she is about to witness.
All right, I will go next. I am playing Bruno Galacera. Bruno, he is older, questioning eyes, curt speech. He is, like I said, a former contractor, worked on some kind of horrible weapon or industrial project, realized what his work was being pushed towards, and has thrown himself sort of full speed or with his full heart into the liberation, but like doesn't really have a direction or a purpose just yet. And the relationship that I've landed on is the zealous liberation fighter who reluctantly trusts me. I have landed on the name Laszlo Henried, and I really like this idea of like a big... I'm a big talker, right? Like, I think a big, like, orator, very much in that vein of, like, rallying people up, because I think there is a moment that I think is important for me of this character who has sort of found himself thrust into this world. That first time when you really hear somebody who gets it and who believes and who is in it and they're really laying it out. I think there's a moment where Bruno hears this and just kind of falls a little hopelessly in love at a moment's notice. And he just is like, I think I love this man. I think this man is going to guide me to the better future. And so that is Laszlo Henried. That is my character, very much also tied to the liberation pillar. Dusty, introduce us to your mechanic.
Yeah, so I am playing Zar Ita. They use they, them pronouns. They have earnest eyes and careful hands. They are somewhere between old and young to older people. Mm-hmm. And I was going through relationships, and I've already kind of established that they are kind of an alone person. And I think so I already had this idea. I wanted to kind of flip the relationship stuff and offer my own, which is I'm thinking how Han has the Millennium Falcon. I would have something similar, but it's like an old junker ship, but with an AI that they've had with them the whole time. And I was thinking like a learned AI, which Learn has some fun little moves to help you to get people to understand what the heck is going on. And I think the main thing about the ship is, again, they want to be solitary, is there's a room where they could remove the panels, and it's just like windows into space, and you could just kind of be surrounded by all sides. And that's where they've spent a lot of time talking to Spark, the droid. Not the droid, the AI on the ship.
Fantastic. I love it. Which of the 4 pillars is your relationship tied to?
I think it would be interesting if it was an old Mandate ship.
Sure. Yeah. There's something real juicy there.
Yeah. So it's an old Mandate ship with an old Mandate AI.
Oh.
Yeah.
What is it? That raises the question for us to sit on that I'm so excited about is like, what does a Mandate AI manifest as? Like, how does that, like, it is one of those again, this is a topic that fascinates me specifically of like, how do the decisions of the Mandate and the Liberation impact these kind of invisible portions of our lives? Like, what does a Mandate AI look, and how is it different than a Liberation AI? Like, those are really, really juicy questions to me.
It's red.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, question answered.
Red means evil. Don't you know?
That up. Call it a day.
Yeah. No, I'll think of something better later. But You know how in thinking like Andor or some like other shows, like when there's a droid on a ship, they have something that pops out of the thing, like an eye or something similar, or even if it's just like a little like mechanical arm that it's a mechanical arm that comes out of different parts of the ship and it talks like a sock puppet.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Of course.
There we
Incredible.
go. That's Spark.
Have you seen Mitchell's versus the Machines? You know, like the evil robots at the end of the movie? They sound like, "Yes, my queen." And it's like really low. My voice does not go that low.
How are you feeling today?
Hello. I'm an evil robot.
all I can see is if you've ever seen this is the second I promise I won't mention Venture Brothers any other times on this call, but if you've ever seen the clip on Venture Brothers of the nozzle where this whole thing just comes out right in the face, like, do not interfere with the nozzle, and it's just this whole, like, it just sits directly in front of a character's face. That's all I can visualize. So we will throw it over to Jay.
So I'm going to be playing Lexicon, who uses its pronouns. Hello, I am Lexicon. And I basically am a larger Eve from WALL-E. I have a very sleek design and open smile, guns for arms, probably the most important part of my character design. And the first of my two relationships is the gossipy bartender at my favorite joint. And I've named them Ishani Ven, and the associated pillar is scum and villainy. I think that makes sense. I like the idea of this being like a dive bar, and it's got a secret room in the back, all that good shindig. And then for the second one, I was having trouble picking, but I was considering the troublemaker or conciliatory droid I hacked to be sarcastic. I'm not sure what it means by hacked to be sarcastic, but I think it is interesting to me that I am playing a robot that has hacked another robot, and so I would like to perhaps make something up and pick a word different than troublemaker or conciliatory, perhaps, to describe this droid. Because I think it would be interesting if I hacked like a mandate something, like the mandate. I'm thinking of like a droid whose entire job is like schedule shift changes or that sort of thing, like relatively low on the totem pole. This is something that in our version of the future, this is something that all the humans were like, now we'll let an AI do this.
Yeah.
Stuff that AI should be doing.
When I was looking for putting my ship, there are a list of traits, and there are like under labels. So there's authoritative traits, if you want to put something like that, or watchful.
Yes.
That could be like an observant droid, or a dramatic one is funny, but it doesn't fit.
What about analytical?
Analytical's good.
Analytical's good.
Yeah. Because I don't think this droid... I think this droid is less developed as an AI than me. I think my character is a fully sentient AI versus this one is an AI that has a job, who was given a job, and can't do much other than the job it was given. So I think analytical might fit here, given like if your job is to basically intake all of the mandate officers like time off requests and where they're stationed and all that sort of thing and organize it and spit out a schedule, I think that's sort of the vibe. So I would have liked to hack this droid, not necessarily to be sarcastic, but maybe just for a job.
That's very good. That's very fun. But they're still just like, do they talk in like droid beeps and boops?
I think, yeah, this is the beepy boopy kind of guy, just a little guy.
Nice.
I'm so glad that we get a beeps and boops droid in the mix somewhere. It's important to me. It is a thing that I like. So I'll throw this to you. Which of the four pillars do you think your relationship is tied to?
I think that's mandate for sure.
Love that. This is a really interesting like map out of the pillars to our relationships that I think is really, really compelling. Everybody, thank you so much for sitting down and making these characters and building this world with me. This was such a satisfying and wonderful experience. I'm going to throw it over to everybody one last time to let us know, what you're working on, where people can find your work online. My name is Jeff Stormer. My pronouns he and his, and I am a podcaster, game designer, and the Great Clown Pagliacci of Tabletop RPG Actual Play. I host a show called Party of One, which is a actual play podcast about getting to know interesting people through the universal language of play. I sit down with guests one-on-one. We play like a bespoke two-player game together, usually a self-contained story in about 90 minutes. You can find that at partyofonepodcast.com, and you can find me anywhere on the internet at jeffstormer.com or Jeff Stormer or Party of One Podcast or some variation thereof. I will throw this over to Catrina.
Hi, I'm Catrina. You can find me across the internet as Catrina. I am a TTRPG actual performer, an author, the founder of Boldly Glow Beauty, a beauty brand for nerdy people, and the marketing director at Hunters Entertainment. I do lots of things all the time, so follow me on Katrina across the internet.
And we'll throw it to Iffy.
Yes, and I am Nwadiwe, host of actually, and just all around professional nerd, comedian, actor, and all that good stuff. So yeah, just follow me at Nwadiwe on all the social medias and iffycomedy.com on Blue Sky if you want to see what I'm up to.
And Nala.
Hey y'all, my name is Nala or Jay. My pronouns are they, them. I am everywhere online at Nala Draws, mostly on Blue Sky at naladraws.com. I am the art director at Hunters Entertainment. I also am an art director freelance, and I would love to work on your projects. I'm also an illustrator. I specialize in character and costume design, fantasy illustration. I do layout design for TTRPGs, and other associated things like that. Check out my website, naladraws.com, and email me with any inquiries at naladraws@gmail.com. Besides art, I am a voice actor, sensitivity consultant, and an actual play stream performer. But yeah, that's me, Naladraws. That's NALADRAWS.
And last but certainly not least, Dusty.
Hi, again, I'm Dusty. I use they, he pronouns. You can find me online primarily at Dust E Hill with a E instead of a Y. I'm a performer and producer for shows like Goblets and Gays, and The Wavering Force, which is a Star Wars AP using Pathfinder 2nd edition for the most part. Also Bring Your Own Mech, which is a Lancer show. Mechs are like my jam. I also write silly genre-full games at From Dust to Dice at itch.io, stuff like Trans Vampire Cowboys, Lesbian Werewolf Crime Fighters, Dracula Owes You Money. If these names are evoking something, then I'm doing my job right. You can find that all at From Dust to Dice at itch.io and at Dusty Hill, basically also most everywhere that I want you to find me.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for sitting down and making these wonderful characters. I cannot wait to see them in action. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with our gameplay. For now, I'm going to throw it over to Jess in the future. Take a future, Jess.
Thanks, Past Jeff, and thank you so much for listening to this episode. I was absolutely blown away by the creativity of our performers in building this world, and I'm so excited I got to share it with you. This episode was produced by myself, Jess Levine. You can find me on Blue Sky as at jessfrom.online and jumpgategames.itch.io. It was co-produced and edited by Seda, who you can find on Blue Sky as posetachips.gaygothvibes.online. Seda is also the host and editor of Folio, a multi-guest actual play podcast about solo and epistolary TTRPGs, in which they brilliantly weave together multiple guests playing separate runs of solo TTRPGs into a single parallel narrative. It is, alongside Party of One of my favorite actual play shows in existence, and even has Jeff from Party of One as an upcoming guest. And speaking of other podcasts I love, there is a sister official actual play to the one you just heard, one in which Austin Walker, Super Dylan, Seda, Natalie Watson, and Kendrick Smith will be playing Galactic's partner game Going Rogue, airing Monday, May 26th on the One Shot podcast. A week after that, we'll be back here on Party of One for the second and final Galactic episode, in which you'll hear the crew jump into play and tell such a charming and delightful story. I really can't wait until y'all get to hear it. Galactic and Going Rogue is crowdfunding on Kickstarter from Tuesday, May 20th through to the end of June and can be found at bit.ly/galacticgoingrogue or the Kickstarter link in the show notes. And if you're hearing this May 19th, check out the pre-launch page and sign up to be notified when it goes live. If you sign up on the backer kit and back it in the first 24 hours, you get a free copy of my other game, Planet Fist. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that relationships forged in struggle can turn allies into comrades and rallies into rebellions. And as always, party on, everybody.